Book review time. Just read both books, Republican and Democrat soul books, from the people that made Chicken Soup for the Soul books. They're both pretty good. I mean, they don't really actually talk much about actual politics, really. They have stories in both of them. They have stories in both of them. Some of them have the same story in both of them. And they are stories about what those particular people, why they're a Republican or why they're a Democrat. And most of the time it has to do with like upbringing and how they were raised, and some reasons are kind of stupid and other reasons are pretty intelligent. They both make a fair case for their reason for doing it, really. And also they're both pretty good. I mean, honestly, they're both good books. They were only like $1.50 at Ollie's, so. But here's an interesting thing. It says on the back here that this is $10. They both say $10 on the back. For some reason, the Democrat one says, I guess it's because they like money more. I don't know. But for some reason, it says was $14.99, now $1.50 or $1.49, when it clearly says right here $9.95. And the one that has Republicans says $9.90 was $9.95, now $1.49. I just thought that was interesting. Why it's probably a typo by the people at Ollie's, you would think. Another interesting thing that they have is this one shows you all the Republican presidents at the time of this writing of this book, so it doesn't have Trump on there. And this one shows you all the Democrat presidents. And if you're doing a match to see who's had more presidents, well, the Republicans are coming up on top. Even after the Democrats in this book are cheating by including Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, and James Monroe. They were Democrat Republicans, not Democrats. Not even the same party. First Democrat was actually Andrew Jackson. But even if you add those three, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, there's only been 18 of them. It may have had something to do with how Franklin Delano Roosevelt took way too many terms. If he's not a case for why we should have had term limits, I don't know what is. Then we had Republican presidents. The first one was Abraham Lincoln, and that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. 18. The quality of the book's not that great because pages are tearing up, and I just bought them today. So, yeah. So the Republican presidents were Abraham Lincoln, Ulysses S. Grant, Rutherford B. Hayes, James Garfield, Chester Alan Arthur, Benjamin Harrison, William McKinley, Theodore Roosevelt, which was actually more of an independent than a Republican because he started his own party later, William Howard Taft, Warren G. Harding, Calvin Coolidge, Herbert C. Hoover, Dwight D. Eisenhower, Richard Nixon, Gerald Ford, Ronald Reagan, George Herbert Walker Bush, and then George Bush's son, George Walker Bush, and then, of course, our current president, which is kind of like Teddy Roosevelt, not really a Republican, more independent. Trump, because Trump's been both back and forth, switching Republican and Democrat. That's a nice little thing here. So if we take out the ones that were put in power because of being vice presidents, we could eliminate. Let's see. We could eliminate 2. It looks like here. A lot of them had 2 terms. It's interesting how Grant became president, but then he won presidency. So that's neat. Now the Democrat presidents, if we're going to include the Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, James Monroe, are those 3, and then it's John Quincy Adams, Andrew Jackson, Martin Van Buren, James K. Polk, Franklin Pierce, James Buchanan, Andrew Johnson, Grover Cleveland. But I think the whole entire Democratic Party started changing, like, gradually over time, because those are early Democrats. But then some of the modern, Woodrow Wilson, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, Harry S. Truman, John F. Kennedy, Lyndon B. Johnson, James Earl Carter, and William J. Clinton are different. So you could probably say the same thing about some of the Republicans. How the Republican Party's changed and how the Democrat Party changed. So it has all these different stories. Like I said, some of the stories are exactly the same. The introduction to the book is exactly the same, except for in the Republican book it says Republican, and in the Democrat book it says Democrat. But other than that, the introduction is exactly the same. Just like the back is kind of, sort of close to exactly the same. Almost the writing on the both sides are almost identical. Then there's a couple of stories that are in both. There's even stories about couples that are married. One's a Republican and one's a Democrat. And there's stories about how people were raised Republican and became Democrats in the Democrat book, and people were raised Democrats became Republicans in the Republicans book. It's even got two black Republican stories in the Republican book. So that's kind of neat. So it's diversifying. They're good books. If you're too into one side or the other, you might not be able to appreciate both. But as a constitutional libertarian that is sort of independent, even though I sway more to the red, to the right, even though I do agree with some of the left, the blue, the Democrat stuff, just not the communist, socialist crap. No, I don't swing with that stuff. Anyway, because that's, but it don't do much to tell you different. I mean, it has some decent stories in both sides about people who were both not involved in politics and then got involved in politics and why, and people that were raised around politics and got involved and why, and people who just voted that way because their families voted that way, and then when they got older and they researched, they discovered that they should vote differently, or they should or that in reality they've always been voting the same way as their parents or grandparents and so on. So they're both good books. I recommend getting the one of I recommend getting the one that you are and reading it, but I also recommend getting the one that you are not and reading it, because it's always good to read another side's point of view and reason why they do something, even if they're wrong. Anyway, it shows off that both sides have what's called good-hearted people with the best of intentions. But the best of intentions aren't always the right thing. Both sides have Christians. Both sides have church-going folks. Both sides have hard-working, everyday Americans. Both sides have people that work. Both sides have people that are married, that have families, that have kids, etc., etc. So both sides have a lot in common, and in this book it showed off people that have friends with both sides more than showing a whole bunch of the differences. So these books try to put a nice bipartisan spin on either side, really, if you want to put it that way. Anyway, remember, God is good all the time. All the time, God is good. Keep on gaming, like, comment, keep on reading, keep on collecting, like, comment, subscribe, share. God is good all the time. All the time, God is good. And God, contrary to popular belief, is not a Republican or a Democrat. Neither is Jesus. Even though there are books out there, which I would like to go to the library and pick up. Yes, there is a book. Books out there. There's a book saying God is a Democrat. There's also a book saying God is a Republican, or God is a conservative, or something of that nature. Or I think there might be one as God is a liberal, or whatever. Anyway, I'd like to go get them just to read them, because I'm pretty sure they're at the library. Just on the grounds to go, really? You're going to use this biblical passage or whatever to try to support your theory? Yeah. God's neither. Shh. God puts all the Republicans in power. God puts all the Democrats in power. The Bible says he puts all the leaders in power. Both the good and the bad, God puts in power. None of them would be in power if God didn't allow it. Matter of fact, God's going to allow, at the end times, the Antichrist to be in power. So, yeah. God's going to allow evil to run and win one of these days. So, yeah. Anyway, Jesus loves you. Jesus God, Jesus Lord, all that good stuff. Jesus King. And if you're not American, you might not get this, but other countries have two-party systems too, where it's just like our Republicans and Democrats, but in other countries there's some two-party systems, and then there's some other countries where there's some multiple party systems and stuff. And if you want to, you can comment down below what party you vote for or feel like you're affiliated with. If you want to, you can comment down something of that nature. But anyway, have a great day. Hope everybody enjoyed these. Another good thing that these books have is they have these like little speeches in here, like from presidents and people who got nominated to be president that didn't necessarily become president, but did manage to secure their party's nomination. It's got some of their, famous speeches, like accepting their nomination speech, or one of their famous speeches they did when they were president. That's cool. And another thing they have that's kind of cool is they have these funny cartoons in there, and they have these who said it things, which are quotes from presidents of their party who said different things. So famous quotes. So those are pretty cool. Anyway, have a great day. Hope you enjoyed this Republicans and Democrats soul book. But I'm still kind of disappointed they didn't have an independent soul book up there. Very disappointed. They should have had an independent soul. They still think that America only has two parties. They're still pushing a two-party agenda. Which is not true. There's more than two parties. There's a whole bunch of parties. I did a whole freaking video of every single party I could find. And have it in my political parties playlist if you're interested in my thoughts of each one of those political parties. Matter of fact, I'll probably put this set of book reviews in the political parties playlist. Anyway, have a great day. Laters. But the question still remains that they didn't answer in these books is, why in the world, I guess some cartoonist decided about it, but why in the world do they have an ass for Democrats and a big fat elephant with a big fat nose trunk for Republicans? I've never gotten why they use those as their symbols. I mean, the American symbol is the eagle. I mean, wouldn't you rather have like some cool animal than a donkey or an elephant? Like maybe a lion? I mean, roar, lion, fight. Or like, I don't know, eagle, the national bird. That's kind of cool. Why in the world? Why Democrats? Why Republicans? Why elephants? Why donkeys? Why? Somebody needs to explain that to me, because I don't get that. And what's with the red and blue? I mean, why red? Why blue? What's up with that? What's up with that? What's up with red and blue? Because I don't know, but did they switch or something? Because at one time, I even have some board games where it's got red and blue things. I have one really old board game where you're running for president. I think it's called Mr. President. And the interesting thing that I noticed about it when I first got it was that the blue presidential nominees are Republicans, and that you can try to run as, while the red ones are Democrats. So at one time, Democrats were being red and Republicans were blue. So when did y'all switch? What happened? Why'd y'all switch? I mean, realistically, since a lot of Democrats are socialist communists, that would have made sense for them to be red, because the communist and socialist parties are red. Blue, I don't know. Blue is the background behind, with all the stars on it, of our national flag, but we have red, white, and blue on the flag. So, which, if you put these books side by side, it kind of has the American flag sort of on the book, which is kind of neat. But anyway, always vote. Always vote, whether you're voting Republican, Democrat, Independent, or writing my name in or your name in. You can vote for me or you, but I'm the better choice if you can't find a person you actually agree with. Anyway, I'm ranting and raving now. Have a great day. Good books. Pick them up. They're at Ollie's. They're cheap. I read both of them. Like, I kind of couldn't put them down except for to go to the bathroom kind of deal. Because they were nice stories. Good stories. Quick reads. Heartwarming stories on both sides. Good stuff. Pick them up. Read them. Enjoy. I recommend both of them. but they better come up with an independent one, and all the other parties too, or they're being discriminatory. Stupid discriminatory company. Who makes this? Health Communications Inc. I might have to write to them and tell them about these other parties so they can make more books. That way they can make more money. Actually, if they're at Ollie's, no offense, but if the book is at Ollie's, they either made too many of the books. Oh yeah, I'll throw in a funny story what I saw about books at Ollie's. If the book is at Ollie's, they either A, made too many of that book, so they didn't sell them all, or B, they weren't selling anyway, and they only made a limited amount of those books. Either way, the company who makes them books lost, and your gain if you go to Ollie's and pick them up for cheap. That's a good deal. I mean, honestly, these books are so cheap that you could buy both of them, read them, and then be like, I have a Republican in the family. Oh wait, I have a Democrat in the family too. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to read this book, and then I'm going to be like, when I go over to my Democrat friend's house, or friend, or family member, I'm going to be like, I picked you up a book, even though, now if you're a fellow Democrat, you'll be like, I picked you up a book, it's cool, it's awesome. If you're not a fellow Democrat and you're Republican, you'll go, I picked you up a book, even though you should be voting Republican, and walk off. And then, the same thing with your Republican friends. If you're a Democrat, you'll be like, I picked you up a book, you Trump lover. Bye. And run off. Or if you're a fellow Republican fan, you can be like, hey man, I found this cool book. It's awesome. Read it. It's cool. Republicans rule. Anyway, that was the comedy routine of the episode. Oh yeah, the other funny story, just because I have time and it's fun. Funny story. At Ollie's. You know how some people love Trump and some people hate Trump? Guess what? Both love and hate Trump books were at Ollie's. Right next to each other. You have like this book saying, this like pro-Trump book right next to this like anti-Trump book. It's just, they're in the same store right next to each other. And it looks to me like neither one of them are selling that great. So, the people who hate Trump aren't buying the anti-Trump books, and the people who love Trump aren't even really buying the great Trump books. They look to me like they have about the same amount of books on each side, and I looked at the back of the prices. Their prices at Ollie's for books are like $3 to like $6. You cannot beat that. Come on. The only way you could beat that is if, like, the Ollie store was like, hey, you want some free books? That's about the only way you could beat it. The only place that you can get cheaper books is the library. That's about the only place you can get cheaper books. Because they're free. Yeah, sure. But, and maybe yard sales. Because for some weird reason, these books like this, while they can sell at a store for $1, $1.50, $2, as overstock books, you can't even get 50 cents for one of these damn books at a damn yard sale. You'd be lucky to get a quarter. People just don't buy books at yard sales for some reason. Have no clue why. Do they think that they're like damaged or something? Do they think that they're like, I don't know. Yeah, seriously, why don't people buy books at yard sales? I have no idea. They'll buy everything else, but not books. Except my mom, she'll buy books anywhere. But that's where in the places she gets cheap books. You can get them for like quarters, dimes. Heck, if you ask them nicely, they might even just say, take the book, take it. Take it off my hands. Because they just don't sell at yard sales. Anyway, have a great day. I think I'm gonna wrap up the video now. But it was kind of funny to see how there was. Now, I will say it is kind of funny that there was both anti-Trump books there and pro-Trump books there, but I think the ratio was 1.5 to 1 in favor of Trump books. So I'm not sure if Democrats bought more of the anti-Trump books, or if Republicans just didn't buy as many pro-Trump books, or if both sides just didn't sell that good, or what. There was like 3 pro-Trump books and 2 anti-Trump books. There's like 5 different Trump books that were up there. So I'm not sure if they just didn't sell, or they sold and they didn't sell all of them, or if the Democrats just didn't want to buy the anti-Trump books, or the Democrats bought more of the anti-Trump books, and that's why there's only 2 anti-Trump books as opposed to 3, because they bought them all, or if the Republicans just were more conservative with their money and only bought 1 pro-Trump book instead of buying all 3 pro-Trump books. That maybe, I don't know what the reason behind it was, but if the reason has nothing to do with political motivation, and it had to do with the same amount of both sides' books just sold sort of kind of equally, then it would explain how all books were in the Aldi's at sort of kind of equal ratios, but it would still make Trump on top, with more people writing that they agree with him than writing that they disagree with him. If everything is flat even, then that would be the case. If not, no, I don't know. Anyway, pick up the books. Go to Ollie's. Go to Ollie's and buy some damn books. They have a crap load of them. And if you have kids, they have a crap load of books for kids. They have comic books. They have all kinds of books. Just go buy some books and read something. I mean, it's not like you got anything else to do. The government's forcing you to stay home. So go out, buy some books, and read them. I mean, what else can you do? And have a great day. And expand your brain and vocabulary, or whatever else a book does. Like, these have some cool historical stuff in it that, I mean, the speeches in here, even though I'm pretty sure the speeches are free. I mean, you probably could look them up on the internet, but you wouldn't look them up on the internet. I know most of you people, if it ain't in the book right in front of you, you probably wouldn't be reading it, even though you could probably get it free on the internet. If you're not interested in it, you're not going to go on the internet and look it up. I know you can find all the presidential famous speeches probably on usgovernmentdocuments.gov or something like that. But you're not going to look that up. You really are not going to look that up. If you're not interested in it, you're not going to look it up. But it's in this book, so if someone handed you this book, you might read it. I don't know, might not. Or you went and bought the book, you might read it, you might not. But for only $1 and something, for only $1.50, you can't really go wrong buying both of them. $3. Even if you're going to give them away, throw them away. Hell, if you're a Democrat and you're like, Republicans, hey, wait, the coronavirus is going on. Look at all this paper I can use for toilet paper. Or if you're like a Republican and Democrats, oh man, I don't want to read about them, but I do need some toilet paper. You could use the freaking paper. It's cheaper than buying a bunch of rolls of toilet paper. It's only $1.50. Oh my gosh. Anyway, there's me doing my comedy rant rave, but also being serious part again. Why? I don't know why. Just because I get 30-something minutes, and that's why. I don't know, I'm just wasting time. Killing time. Why? Because y'all probably ain't going to watch all of it anyway. Y'all probably going to press skip. Y'all probably just not even going to watch but the first 5 minutes or some shit of that. If you do watch all 30 minutes, congratulations. You have just made it to the point where I am fixing to turn it off and stop it right now.